What's going on, everyone? Goddrifter here, and welcome to the Goddrifter Podcast. This is the podcast where you most likely will hear me talk about random things, and most people will probably be one to be interested in. Well, probably or probably not, depending on the person. Um, yeah, welcome to the podcast. So today, I want to I'm indeed going to be talking about a interesting topic that I kind of see that coming. Anyway, um, no, what was I? Oh yes. Um, so today I want to talk about stories in racing games. Now, depending on what the theme is in terms of what's that called? I'm doing well. Yeah. Now I lost track of what I was about to say. Actually, not, actually, I think I know what I was about to say. Um. So yeah, stories and racing games. Though two two of these things can go hand in hand depending on who is producing the game on or who is writing the story. Now, some of these stories can be cringy um depending on the circumstances. Like if the um if the dialogue is too hip for most of us to get, then we're not gonna like the story because the fact the characters sound like been they've been written by like a 12-year-old or something. Uh, but sometimes uh, these characters might have cards that we might not know about. Let's take Need to Be Pro Street for example, or actually no. Let's talk about Need to Be Carnival moments. The Final Boss Darius has the Audi Le Mans Quattro, which at that time would have been considered an IR8 if it were to come out sooner than later. And it was until 2008 when the car first came out, or 2007, depending on where it was released. The car was unknown, like literally unknown, to the fact that it came with a 5-liter V10 and it produced roughly 500 to 600 horsepower, depending on what the what's that called? Depending on trim levels. Pro Street is the same in that regard, where the final boss is in an Evo 10, which at that time, back in 2007, the Evo 10 was new, and no one didn't know how to actually didn't know how fast that car could be. And let me tell you, when the car first came out, everybody dubbed it Rio's Evo because obviously the car was owned by Rio Watanabe back in East Green Pro Street. So yeah, majority of that it goes to literally knowing nothing about the car to knowing something about the car, and that trend seems to continue um, until recently. Like Need for Speed, because obviously everybody knows how to tune a Porsche, but a lot of us didn't know that the Porsche 930, the Carrera RSR, was gonna be the most broken car in the Need for Speed franchise. More broken than Black Box's Volkswagen Golf, which, keep in mind, was probably one of the fastest cars in the entire game. And keep in mind, this is coming from the guy that raced a lot of them. Oh god. now what was I? Oh yeah. So yeah, I actually um do miss the fact that you might have a what's it called? Actually, I do miss the fact that literally like the boss actually has a car that most if not all the people that don't know about. And it actually was a great feeling when the fact that you actually beat the same exact car that like, for example, if I were to make my own racing game, I have to figure out what the cover car is, but not spoil all who is driving it. Because if it did that, then there's no point to that. And not to mention, at that time, okay, so there are literally 3 games that I know that actually didn't spoil or what the final boss is driving. So let's take a look at Need for Speed Carbon. Okay, Need for Speed Carbon, there is the Lamar Quattro, which wasn't a concept car back in 2003, and it was in its final stage was around 2006. And in 2007, the IDR8 came out, and not to mention, it was probably their best attempt on making a supercar, with 2 models, to be more specific, 2 engine variants of the car. You got the R8 with a 4.7 liter V8, and you got the R8 with a 5.2 liter V10. And at that time, no one knows what the Audi Lamar was capable of. So yeah, except for the fact that the 5 liter V10, yeah, let's just say that that's kind of Porsche Carrera GT-ish. I don't know, that's probably my opinion. Pro Street, the cover car. Okay, so these Garmin had 2 cover cars. It was the Evo, and at that time, the newest Challenger that Dodge ever made, which was the Dodge Challenger concept, and it was huge. Yeah, back then it was kind of huge at the time, where literally, like everybody, like of all the muscle cars in the game, the Challenger has to be the biggest. In fact, it's bigger than the Chrysler 300, and that's a 4-door. And again, back then, like some car companies not want the cars in games, but at the same time they do want the cars in video games, because like that actually makes sense. In fact, Honda was Toyota back then, and anybody would know why if you actually research on why Honda doesn't want any of the cars in the game that feature cops. Now, what was I? Oh yes. So most likely when a lot of persons were surprised that Honda was in Pro Street, it was like, wait a minute. So why do they want their cars in the game? It's like, cops. That's the only reason. In fact, they didn't return another cover, which is a big old giant question mark. Excuse me. Alright, so yeah, Pro Street has the Nissan GTR as its cover car, which at that time it was how should I say this? It was new at the time, and there were two variants of it. It was the regular GTR and the GTR Pro. Actually, not GTR Prototype, GTR Proto. My mistake. And the GTR Proto was faster, but you can build the regular GTR like it was. And then it needs to be on the cover, even though the cover car was the 911 GT2. The final boss car, spoiler alert, is a BMW M6, which I think it was new at the time. I don't know, but it was probably out of all the cars I used in that game, that along with the ISF is probably one of my favorite cars, because one, those two have V8s, so you can't go wrong with a V8. And number two, well, one is a 4-door, one is a 2-door, and three, they're both luxury sedan. Well, not luxury sedans per se, but they're more like luxury cars. And my car's stuck. Yeah, and then the trend kind of stopped when Shift came out, and there wasn't really a final boss. Like, it was just endless racing until like you end up getting most of the cars that you want in the game. And yeah, and then Hot Pursuit came out, and it's like, okay, so I guess that trend kind of ended. And then the run kind of spoiled on what car is, like, which car is which, or whose car is who, but it didn't spoil the final boss car, so that was kind of good. So, for those that are wondering, there are two variants on Need for Speed to Run. There is the original, which showed the Shelby GT500, which at the time it was in its ninth. At that time, it was in its facelifted model days, and then the limited edition or collector's edition, depending on which one you got, featured a Lamborghini Aventador, which was also new at the time. And not to mention, some cars now weren't in any racing game at all. It just happened to be in Borough Street. For example, there was, I believe it was a, oh goodness, what's that called? If I remember correctly, it was a, yeah, I can't remember what cars they were. Oh wait, never mind. No, there was a Muslim Golf. There was an El Camino. There was an SLS. Oh, that for sure. But the one that caught my eye the most was a 177, a $1.5 million. I would say supercar, but most people prefer that as a luxury grand tour. So. Yeah, I will actually count that as a luxury coupe as well. What was I? Oh yeah. Um. So yeah, and then right after that, um, News People Story, well, aka Burnout, Burnout Most Wanted, because I don't know who came up with the idea of having the Most Wanted name in the 2012 game when apparently it was nothing like the original, like at all. Um, and then there was and then these revivals happened, and I was like, yeah, I kind of give up on the series until 2015, where I was like, oh, okay, this is street racing. Okay, that's not bad. And it's like, oh, okay. So it's like, oh, the newest Need for Speed is about to come out soon. And keep in mind, I was hyped. I was actually gonna get a taste of the newest generation console along with the newest Need for Speed game. So for me, it's kind of like killing two birds with one stone. And to mention, accompanying those two accompanying Need for Speed 2015 was Call of Black Ops 3 and The Crew. And The Crew actually has a really good story. It's just that I wish that it was, you know, had better physics. And well, it's not the fact that the physics wasn't bad. It was the fact that what's that called? It was the fact that I wish it wasn't all online, because it was on all was all bleh, excuse me. It was it was thinking this thing's called online all the time. I think that's what it's called back then. Um, so basically, so at that point you just play a MMO with cars. And it's like, okay, it's not bad. It's just most people prefer to actually have these things, and yeah, apparently it kind of worked, I guess. Excuse me, I don't know, but yeah, there's one thing I know that's not just important, it's if not as important as the cars, is characters. Characters can make or break the game. Some characters can be memorable, others are intoxicating, but like for example, and I'm gonna use my own show as an example. In Walking Theory, every single character has a different fight. It also depends on someone's personality. So so you got like, so most likely, not to mention, you have to kind of like have to be in that race scene in order to like comprehend what's happening. And not to mention, um, there's a lot of research going through that show. So literally, like from the music to um, see, from music to the trends to even dialogue. And then again, what's that called? Like if they try real hard to make it seem like, oh, we're in like 1990s, but but puts out, like, for example, like literally early 90s, and it's like, oh yeah, I was gonna put so 3 Days Grace, and it's like, dude, that's not from 1990s. That's literally like early to mid 2000s. Like, dude, what is this? Oh, and trust me, there are some games that are there are some car games that have really, and I mean really bad dialogue, and it is a very good example. You have Tetris Limit 2 with its constant amount of characters that looked exactly the same. As in, who designed the characters? Oh, and trust me, I know that Juice 2 was literally guilty of this as well. And not to mention the, not to mention the most likely uh whenever there's like villains or like antagonists, there are there are two sides of two different coins. There are antagonists and there are villains in racing games. You got the antagonist is usually the person that's trying to stop you from literally being the best racer around, but the villain just wants to straight up destroy you. And it's like, okay, why become a villain in a car game? Which, one, that makes no sense. Two, like, come on now. And the thing is, some of the villains are not badly written. They're just poorly executed. Like for example, used to be Payback's Lena Navarro. Now, apparently she comes off as an antagonist, but a lot of people mostly sees her as a villain. While Frank Mercer, Frank Mercer is kind of like an antagonist, not antagonist. Frank Mercer is more of a villain than Lena. And keep in mind, Frank Mercer is actually a cop. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah. But then again, the one that actually surprised me the most, that has the best writing, has to go to Midnight Club Los Angeles. Now, even though you're playing as one character, all the characters are memorable, or at least a lot more memorable than I thought it was, because literally every single character has their own vehicle and their own design on that specific vehicle. Like for example, take Hugo, for example, from Miracle Los Angeles. He's an Hispanic guy who actually lose to you before, and most likely he gave you a chance to actually race him, and most likely you beat him, and then he comes back for revenge. And he has like one excuse, and it's like, okay, that's the only excuse that you only have. Uh, then there's Andrew. Andrew is I would say he's one of the Asian characters in the entire Midnight Club game, other than Toshi or Toshi, Fugaru, and what else is there? Oh, and Jin. It's either Jin or Jun, I can't remember. But Anju, he is driven by rematches. As in you beat him, he actually wants to race you in his car. Then boom, you beat him. and then you beat him in another car. And it's like, you know what? Forget this. I'm gonna try and beat you in the bike. You beat him in the bike, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. To the fact that he wants to rematch you until he actually wins. And he's like, dude, I already beat you 4 times in a row. Uh, and then there's Book. Now, for those who do not know, uh, spoiler warning, Book is actually the final boss in Minute Club LA. And he actually races in a X600 Benz, which, for those who do not know, is a B-class car that can actually turn A-class. Except he's probably one of the easiest bosses to ever beat. Wow. Okay, so there are 4 games in the entire series. So far, I say Minute Club 2 is the hardest. Minute Club Speed Racing is a little bit easier than Minute Club 2. Minute Club 3 is not even, it's hard, but it's not easy. It's more of a medium. And then Minute Club LA is just straight up easy. Alright. So like, of all the games that actually has bad story, I had to give that to Anarchy Rush Hour. Now, Anarchy Rush Hour, even though it was a arcade-ish game, and I say arcade-ish for a reason because right out the bat, the game has terrible graphics, the cars don't sound good, the story sucks. In fact, it was more cheesier than the speaking nacho fries and Taco Bell. Like, that is straight up cheese. Like, how? How in the world do you have a story that is written this bad? And I'm like, okay, who in the world decides to actually make this game and make a profit off it? In fact, some people might have been fooled to the fact like, oh, Anarchy Rush Hour. Oh, it's kind of like Burnout. It's not like Burnout. Yeah, it's not even a Burnout game, period. Right, the closest thing you have is Burnout Paradise, which, keep in mind, came out came out literally 4 years before Anarchy Rush Hour. And keep in mind, the game came out in 2011. Burnout came out in 2009. Well, I would say, okay, yeah, two years, but then again, we got some questionable games. We got questionable racing games from the start. And in fact, the only good racing game that was out there was Need Speed World, which came out 2010. And at that time, I didn't even have a PC, so yeah, I was playing it with my mom's computer. While at the same time, I actually did wanted to play the game so much to the point where I want to actually level up. But what I didn't realize that literally in 2016 that they actually shut down the actual game service. I was like, no, not the best Need for Speed game of all time. Ugh. So yeah, no, I thought like, you know what I haven't seen in a while? Literally literally the girlfriend character, or basically the love interest. And of all the racing movies and in the racing games I played, only Fast and Furious actually has this trope where it's like, oh yeah, okay, someone has a girlfriend character. That's actually a pretty good idea at the time, but some chance can die out in the end of it. So yeah, apparently a lot of things could happen. Um, when it comes to making a racing game, or like watching a racing movie, and sometimes it can calm down a person, but there are other times where like some people cannot be calmed to the fact that um like most of these things is because of such and such, and it's like, okay, that can make sense, but it doesn't make sense at the same time. All I can say is that racing games can have a story. It's just that well having a racing game story is probably one of the hardest things to do for a racing game. Like, for example, Forza Horizon has um is that Forza Horizon probably has one of the the Forza Horizon game has a story. Fortunately, Forza Horizons 2, 3, and 4 don't have a story. In fact, I'm pretty sure Forza Horizon 4 only has the side stories, not a main story. The reason why I say this is because, like, like for some reason, it's like, oh yeah, don't worry, everything's gonna be going right now just fine. Except for the fact that half of your fan base actually can get bored of your game if you don't if there isn't a story to go by. Alright, so not to mention there are also the stereotypes of characters in racing games, so yeah, you might as well watch out for those as well. But um yeah, guess that'll be it on one topic. Let's talk about another topic. Uh Now this is actually an interesting thing because trends and car games go hand in hand, but the story is one. Story is just one of them. There are some trends in video games that just wanted to come back. So I say let's list a few. So the first thing I want to talk about is car neon in racing games. Now car neon is flashy. It actually attracts attention, but in the wrong hands, it can actually look yeah. It was it could look not as good as many people will say. So yeah, what was I? Oh yeah. Am I muted? Nope. Okay. Um, so yeah, there are there are some upsides of having neon in the game, and then there's like some cons of having neon in the game. So for the pros, like you can choose any color you want as long as it actually matches the car. Like you don't want to have like red and white. If you have a red and white car, well you have like purple underglow. Excuse me, for some reason, and it's like, okay, that's strange. Why do you have that? But there are also some cons. For example, people, some players will make fun of you, and it's like, oh my god, we had neon in your car, or oh my god, that totally attracts attention for the wrong reasons. And it's like, yeah. Apparently, for those who don't know, some cars can pull off green neon underglow. Just don't try to recreate a Honda Civics from the first Fast and Furious movie, because that doesn't go well. And actually, the fact the most common underglow I usually see in racing games that a lot of people put is red underglow. And I'm thinking like, okay, if I was if I was a typical person to actually want to actually get the cars to where they were, what color would I pick? Oh, I know, I pick red. Red wheels, red paint, red neon underglow. Oh, that goes with it too. It's like, that's too much red. In fact, red and blue are literally are the reason that most people got pulled over for. Because if your car has either red or blue neon underglow, then some people can mistake them for law enforcement. And yeah, not to mention you probably will get a fix-it ticket for having that specific underglow. Wide bodies. So, wide bodies, or actually, in fact, car parts are two things. They're either swing and miss, or it actually works. some bike kits can actually be in racing games and some others can't. And the reason is because of two things. Either they're discontinued and they are onto making different parts for different cars, or they had the parts, you just thought the manufacturer doesn't want them to use them. In fact, it's kind of okay. This is the part where I actually talk about Ferrari for a moment. So yeah, for those who do not know, Ferrari was literally the it's literally the type of thing that says, oh, you want to do that to our cars in the game? Forget that mess. You might as well use our parts. And it's like, okay, what kind of parts do you have? Like race car parts, but you can't customize the wheels or tires or change the engine sound. All right, bye bye. It's like, what? And it's like, what the heck just happened? Oh, and to make matters worse, Ferrari in Need for Speed 2015 was also one of the only cars in the game that, even though you have maxed out the track width, the wheels still won't fit because, like, you need like a bigger tire. And it's like, okay, so that makes no sense. But to make matters worse, you have not only have like 3 variants of the same car, BRZ, that for S86, but you also have Ferraris, which you can't even customize. I mean, you can, it's just that it's not gonna be the same, not the same thing per se, but there's more a lot of licensing issues. It's probably the reason why Ferrari wasn't in Payback, which I was kind of glad it wasn't, because that would make things a lot more worse. And it's like okay, so Ferrari was already in something that's kind of interesting. Well, anyway, so most likely due to the fact that a lot of people wanted to customize the car so badly that it hurts. But unfortunately, Ferrari doesn't let us give access to their cars because apparently they don't want us to buy their cars in the first place. So, and you know the insult to injury is, they don't want us to customize their cars in Need for Speed. When it comes to Forza, oh, like, oh, you want some customization? Here's some wheels, here's some body kits, you're good to go. And it's like, what? So you have Forza, so you can let Forza customize the cars, but not us? Come on now. And then Needs to Be Heat happens, and it's like, okay, you can finally get our cars some custom wheels. Not just hope to actually fix the fitment for half these body kits, because right now I'm looking at it, I'm like, why? Why you do this? Why you do this? But then again, there are also other manufacturers that actually do this type of thing. For example, I haven't seen Bentley in a mainstream racing game other than Forza. Like Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit has them. I'm pretty sure. I think Tesla. I think Tesla has one in the game. I can't remember, but there's also Rolls-Royce, which definitely Forza still has them to this day. It also depends on the manufacturer. In fact, back in the day, Honda was Toyota in that regard. That they don't want their cars in racing games with cops in them. So or any street racing game, well, used to be any street racing game, period. Um, and then back in 2005, yeah, Honda was absent from the street scene back in any street racing game, and they're only on a couple of track racing games, and yeah, they kind of had that respond with what Toyota had back in 2019, 2020, depending on the year, or which part of the year it is. But yeah, I was like, okay, so Honda doesn't want the cars in the game, so it's free real estate. um. And heck, even Audi was like, oh no, we're not having our cars to be associated with cops. So yeah, you can count that out. Or if you want, you can have our concept car. You just can't drive it when you just can't buy it. And it's like, okay, so how we drive? It's like you win it by being in the game. And it's like, why? Why do you why do you not want us to play with the car and see what can actually capable of maxed out? And heck, it's kind of the same story with the where correctly it was. Oh wait, no, it wasn't Audi, it was BMW. Because I was like, wait, what does BMW have? Like, oh right, M3 GTR, and not to mention the M3 was like, at that time, was probably a good car to actually get at that time because of not only it still came with an inline-6, it was powerful too, around 3.2 liters. But the M3 GTR was different, and at that time it was 3 variants. There was the M3, the M3 GTR Street Edition, and then the M3 GTR Race Edition. And the cover car for Most Wanted was the race version of the M3 GTR, which well, do not know, it was a P60 motor, which was used in race cars. So there's that. But if I had to predict the next Need for Speed cover car, there's probably gonna be something new that we not actually have our hands on. So yeah, I'm just hoping if it's like something that's new that just came out and be like unknown for us. So like it'll be like the 3 Need for Speed games with the boss car being not being there. So it's like, okay, so it's gonna be something new, right? It's like it will be. So I'm thinking like the car, like they can either have like a 400Z or like a 400Z or the GR86 or like the, I would say CA Corvette or Toyota Supra, but yeah, that would involve, well, Chevrolet wouldn't mind adding the CA in a racing game. Toyota is what I'm not sure about. Because obviously they do not want their cars in any street racing game, period. Even though, okay, here's the funny part. Toyota added the new Toyota Supra in the Fast and Furious Crossover game, and guess what? No one plays it. So it's like you literally just wasted money on a game that looks like a PS3 game. Is overpriced, keep in mind, and it's just, like, who invested money on a game that no one plays? I mean, the reason why most people didn't play it is because of because the story was questionable at best. The physics needs work, and not to mention, who came up with the online modes? Oh, and not to mention, there isn't a single player mode in the game except for story, which that makes it 10x worse. That's the reason why most people just ended up, I think a lot of people returned the game, or actually refunded the game, because, yeah. It was like, man, I don't want to play this crappy game. I'd rather just play something else. Like, yeah, I kind of feel bad for the people that actually pre-order it, thinking that it's gonna be good. And I'm like, geez, not to mention, I think the mobile games from the Fast and Furious was a lot better than this. And it did, and they discontinued back in 2018. It was an experience for the most part. Like around that time, mobile racing games was popping out like it was hotcakes. Like you got, like at that time, you got Needs to Be No Limits, Racing Rivals still a thing. CSR Classic was new, and well, heck, even what's that called? Heck, even Asphalt 8, which will probably be one of the biggest racing games of all time, was a thing. So, am I also live on Twitch? No, I'm only live on YouTube. I wish I was live on Twitch. Then again, I'm streaming through the game, so yeah, it's kind of ironic the fact that I'm actually streaming on YouTube for this game, while at the same time, I'm in the right RX7. Okay. Well, right now, it's a podcast and a car street racing video at the same time because I forgot to stream my podcast yesterday, and I was about to like do a stream CarX, but I was like, you know what, I was gonna do both at the same time, so I'm basically just doing a podcast and a CarX video. So yeah, actually, speaking of which, sorry about the voice cracked. Oh, my bad. Didn't mean to do that. Speaking of CarX, I'm wondering how big CarX Street is going to be when it hits consoles, because right now they're still working on some things for the PC. And my question is, are there going to be more cars than the original, or CarX Street Racing 2? Not Street Racing, CarX Drift Racing 2, because CarX Drift Racing 2 has 74, this game has 77, so I'm thinking, if I had to estimate on how many cars are going to be there, I'd say, give or take about 102, or actually 110, because obviously it's going to be like a big game that's going to come out, and it's like, oh, okay, so we got these things to, alright, everyone get around, got this for you. Okay, CarX Street is gonna come out, there's gonna be 110 cars, and it's like, oh, sweet. Like, can we see the car list? Like, sure. And it's like, we don't even know half these cars. Which, Oh my goodness. And if it's gonna be interesting as I thought it was, then I'll be like, you know what? This is going to take many hours to actually and grind up and like buy every single car, because I think a lot of people had done that before. Like they grind the entire game just to oh Jesus. Yeah, not to mention the reason why I say 110 is because nowadays a lot of people wanted like a giant cast of cars, and they like, oh yeah, I just want to have a car like sorry for. So it's like, you do realize that you realize that that's way too many cars, and not to mention you have to look for like you have to look at the cars, and you have to realize what those cars are based off of out of necessity, not out of necessity. Like take Grand Theft Auto Online for example. The VSTR is literally a CTSV, but instead of like an open grill, this it has like this bridge. So, and not to mention it has that Albany logo. So I'm like, okay, that's not bad. Um, but there are also but then again, you got Gran Turismo 6 with its over 1,000 cars in the PS3, which I was kind of surprised on surprised at how many megabytes has to be in that drive just to actually play the game. Okay. Alright, now what was I? Oh yes. Um. Ow. So, okay, I need to go back to my main topic. So, body kits. Um. As long as you know what kind of body kits there are these days, then you're good. Otherwise, like, you trying to have people wanted this such an like a body kit that came out in 2006, and they stopped making them because they're more to newer things now. You might as well just give up on trying to wish for, like, for example, I hate the moment when, like, the moment someone got an RX-7 and then they turn into Han's RX-7. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, do they bike kits for a car? And they move on to better things. So, like, Veilside kit for the RX-7, it's like, okay, do you realize how heavy that mess is? As if I remember correctly, the car was like 2,800 pounds. Han's RX-7 Airhand, 3,600 pounds. How? Simple. The car has a bike that actually changed the entire look. And not to mention, I heard some owners of a Vilside Monster RX-7 had complaints that some dirt or gravel can actually get trapped inside the side skirt. And not to mention, it has to be like literally. Don't like the body kit. I do like the body kit. It's just that, in my opinion, like I just wish a lot of people stop making replica Hans RX-7s, because even though they have been done well, it's just that I wish that it's just like, oh yeah, I just wish they had the actual bike kit. And it's like, dude, the car's bike kit came out in 2006. They stopped making them like a long time ago. Like, it's not a bad kit per se. It's just that, in my opinion, like they just gotta let it go. Oh my goodness. Ow. Oops, sorry about that. In fact, okay, let me think of another example of a bike that's been discontinued. The AB Flug Supra. Now, the AB Flug Supra is probably one of the most aerodynamic, while at the same time a really interesting style of that bike kit, because the bike kit has so many aero bits to the point where it's actually produced more downforce than its original counterpart. In fact, Vilside has a bike kit for the Supra, but it kind of looked like a Bentley at one point. Not to mention, some people might not like the bike kits because they're like, oh my goodness, they take so much time, or oh my goodness, why you clean up the car so much, or oh no, why are you doing this to the car, or why are you like doing that to the car? It's like, can I do that without, can I build in a bike kit without being judged? And like, even though it's a work of art, there are some practicalities. For example, you had to, well, it's not, you have to park differently, but it's more or less on how wide the car is from the original. And not to mention, the reason that most people will discontinued their bike kits because other people are like making replicas of that specific bike kit. Like, for example, the Mitsubishi Eclipse Fast and Furious. The car has a Robocar bike kit, which is based off of Blitz, so it's literally a Blitz ripoff for on the Eclipse, which is not bad. It's just that of anything, oh Jesus, and anything, it's kind of creative on how to actually make your car look good, while at the same time, like having like the ability to actually have your car not stance per se, but like having a car with a fitment that actually takes a lot of effort. But there are bad ways of actually having a replica bike kit that most people will literally know right out the bat. For example, I know like a lot of people might or might not like this YouTuber, but TJ Hunt used to have a replica kit on his BRZ. A lot of people gave him flack for that, so he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna make the most authentic FDRX7 out of the US soil. So he did that. He ordered a lot of parts from Japan, and he built that car up from the ground up. Like, no joke, it was a green damaged RX-7 with a badly damaged door. Well, I say a badly dented door, and it was an automatic. So they're like, you know what? We're gonna put in the baddest 13B with a manual, and we're gonna get that from New Zealand. And it's like, okay, that. And then literally two together, I was like, wait, that's what Mad Mike is. And for those who do not know, I'm not talking about Mad Mike from Pet My Ride. I'm talking about Mad Mike from Red Bull's Mazda division, which I was like, man, that's insane. That it even has like a four-wheeler. I think it was a four-wheeler RX-7 or RX-8. I can't remember. And like, no joke, it was probably his best. That's probably the best idea to ever get. Like, get a rotary engine from New Zealand, and then ship it to the States, and then just swap the engine in. And not to mention, that Aria Mamiya kit just sets it all off. Like, I was like, man, if I had an RX-7, I would probably put an Aria Mamiya kit on it as well. Except, I wouldn't have enough money for that. So, in my opinion, what I'd do if I had an RX-7, it'll probably be, what's that called? It'll probably be, oh yeah, car shop glow, bumper, rear bumper, tail lights, and what's that called? I probably will have a spoiler delete, and then I will actually roll the fenders along with Workmeister Alon's, probably painted black. It's not Corvette. And wow, okay, the ball expired. No one didn't want to. No one doesn't want to go to daytime. Ay, ay. So even though yes, I do like the bike kit, it's just that like if they're discontinued, then it's like there's no point of trying to add them, because it's like, oh, we discontinued that bike kit like a very long time ago. So it's like, yeah, I wouldn't bet money on adding a bike kit such as that. In fact, the reason why bike kits can, and I mean they can actually look different, it's just that it depends on which variant of the bike kit you order, because there are two variants. There's the fully coated one, and then there is one where like the black bits are there. So I was like, okay, so what do I do? It's like, okay, you just order the parts that have like the black portion of it, and see how that goes. It's actually, it's not a bad kit per se. It's just that a lot of people might mistaking that as a supercar. So, you know, heck, even I thought the car was a supercar until 2011. Got used to Hot Boy Nights. Literally a month before my birthday, and then when I think it was Tier 4, League 4, and I unlocked the RX-7. I was like, oh, okay, I unlocked the RX-7. And then the moment I put on that bike kit, I was like, it's an RX-7. My mind is just like, Wait, no, actually it wasn't. It was way before that. It was Fast and Furious Drift game where I actually got an RX-7, and I was like, oh my god, it's an RX-7 the whole time. So yeah, I was like, okay, that's not bad. It's just that it's a shock factor. Uh, Wheels in racing games, they're a dime a dozen, but a lot of people had their preferences. Some people like Rays, some people like Works, some people like OZs, and as well as but heck, some people actually like 1552s, as well as Cosmos, as well, and not to mention BBSs, SSRs. But there are other rims that actually that haven't been mentioned anymore. Like Tensor Tensor was actually one of my favorite brands back in the older Need for Speed days. Like, it was insane how one rim manufacturer actually has my favorite wheels. Welcome to the podcast. um, what else is there? Um, well, yeah. Nowadays it's literally just, oh yeah, we're just trying to get the best fim out of everything. 3-piece wheels, 2-piece wheels. Like, okay, what happened to 1-piece wheel? Man, those 1-piece wheels and just go around, just go somewhere. It's like, yeah. This is, yeah, depending on what type of wheels that are. Actually, what I haven't seen yet in any racing game at all is customizable wheels. Like, for example, you can have like a as Workmeister S series, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to make it the best looking wheel possible. Driving real life, I don't have a car. In fact, I don't have a license. Which, keep in mind, I'm in my 20s, so yeah, that's kind of sad, really. Oh my god. In fact, the reason why I want to drive in the first place is because of like, I was planning on. Here's the thing, I was planning on taking the driver's test when I was 16, but I was more into like being a workaholic than actually drive. So why don't you have a license? License costs in the U.S. Uh, Literally. Okay, let me answer the first question. The reason why I don't have a license is because literally, if I had, okay, so most likely, if I had to have a license, then that would be awesome. Like, I was planning on taking my driver's license when I was 16, but I didn't have enough time. So literally, and not to mention, my mom keeps like telling me to study more, study more, study more, and then boom, pandemic happens. And I'm like, okay, so how am I supposed to get a driver's license now? Like, this absolutely makes no sense. In terms of how much does it cost, how much does the driver's license cost in the U.S.? Literally, it depends on the state. Some states actually have cheaper cheaper licenses than an average person. So literally, um, it can actually range from 30, like around the $30, like around, I would say 36 to around $30 to $60 depending on the circumstances, and I just spun out. What was I think I was. Oh my goodness, what was I talking about again? Oh yes, customizable wheels. I paid 50, Jesus. But then again, I heard that literally the driver's license is literally just common sense. Like they'll park in the blue, they'll park at where the blue lines are, or aka the handicap symbol. Let's see. Do not tailgate people because it actually it can actually cause accidents. Do not use your phone while driving, which, trust me, I've seen. Okay, I'm not joking when I say this, but every time I'm riding shotgun, like literally, I've seen people that are on their phones or they're crazy here in Norway. It's my God, how is it? Well, that's a lot. Wait, I think it goes by pounds, either pounds or euros. I don't know. That's a whole car. Dude, that's a whole car. Man, that's like 3 G bodies. Yeah, I passed. Wait, no, not 3 G bodies. That's 3,000, 4,000. No, that's 2 G bodies. My bad. If you don't know what a G body is, it's the generation where you have Pontiac Grand Prix, Chevrolet Monte Carlo, oh Jesus, my bad, Buick Regals, and Oldsmobile Cutlasses. So that's like, literally 2 of those in a row. Look at this, it's crazy. I really can't get license though, because having your own car fee, your own car is good. You feel free. You're not wrong. That is true. Then again, even though if I got my license, and that is a giant if, because the pandemic is not gonna. Probably the pandemic lifts, and we can actually move on to something better. I was like, okay. I was just hoping that happens, so that way I can actually take the driver's test, so I can actually get my own license, and probably get my own car as well. Then again, many cars are. Actually, there are some cars that you can actually have. That you can actually have out here in Norway. As my place still expensive. Oh my God. Okay, not to mention, oh, actually, not to mention, there are some people that actually there are some people that actually has, like, even though a lot of people have some nice cars, but there are some cars that a lot of people literally just straight, oh my goodness. I said, no, wait, god dang it, what was I saying? Oh yeah, when it comes to, like, me riding shotgun, everybody's just on their phone, or they're slowing down to trying to make the next turn. I was like, just turn already. You're just slowing down traffic. For God's sake. Oh my goodness. In fact, it's worse when the driver is using their phone. When it's like, yo, what are you doing? Just put the phone down and focus on the road. Seriously, that's the reason why most people just. I'm like, okay, I'm wondering how this person have passed their driver's test. Like it's insane. Like, it makes no sense. Now DC2 I built suspension that look to attract the mountain roads. Now that I thought about it, I do. No, I thought about it. I used to have a classmate that owned an Integra. It was a 4-door. And not gonna lie, it actually sounded pretty good. And not to mention, in the States, the cops can give you a hard time. It's just like you need to be patient. And actually, trust me, like I had this one classmate, and it was when I was taking my engines class, and he told me that at that time, he had like a giant tachometer that is sticking out of the dashboard, and you know what the worst part is? He got pulled over and he got a traffic ticket while there were literally two people they got pulled over and they speed everywhere. Oh my goodness. What was I saying? Oh yeah. And he literally had a giant tachometer, and literally the cop turned around and then he did a full-on J-turn and then just flashes light. It's like, okay, what's going on? And then unfortunately he got pulled over. Well, the worst part is there were two Mustangs just doing burnouts. I was like, and he's like, okay, how come you actually have to pull me over when there are literally two Mustangs doing burnouts? And I was like, yeah, I kind of feel bad for him. And like, man. And not to mention, I know a loud car when I hear one, and nothing says louder than my old classmate's Nissan 350Z, which I was like, oh no, don't. I know, like, he said he didn't straight pipe it, but he upgraded the headers. I think that's all he did. He did headers, and my God, I didn't realize how I'm like, how loud can your car get? Like, there is loud, and then there's too loud. And then yeah, one of my classes, classmate had a 4 Mustang. It literally just beats at 3VZ, turns to sound. I'm like, Jesus. I'm thinking like, man, if I go deaf, I'm blaming the Mustang. God dang it. What was I? Oh yeah. So yeah, customizable wheels. Customizable wheels might be returning. Honestly, there might be a new thing in racing games. It just depends on what kind of wheel is it, as well as how many people gonna be like, why is it super loud? But I got BC spec. Oh, BC spec 2 exhaust coming in. Very excited for it. My neighbors are gonna hate me hate me even more. Oh my God. What was I? Oh yeah. So yeah, I believe that customized wheels can make a can be a new thing in racing games. Customizable body kits can also be a thing in racing games. Well, can be a new thing in racing games. The fact that you can make your own body kits, and you can either have like rivets, or you can actually have like a molded type body kit. Actually, not double it. I haven't seen any racing game that actually had molded body kits, like at all. Right, the reason why I know about it is because I watched Drew Peacock. He actually shows like he has like a bunch of funny videos.